Alright, let's press the 2D scene button inside the scene panel to create a new 2D scene. Next we will add a sprite 2D node. Let's make this both fun and educational by creating a zombie that we can use later in our game. If you haven't already downloaded the assets that belong to this lesson, then please do so. In there we will have some PNG files. Let's drag both of them into Godot. Once it's recognized by the editor, we can drag it in our scene like this. Let's start by zooming in a little bit, but before we start exploring our new Sprite 2D node, let's see if you're still with me. Please pause the video and try to recall the subjects that you learned in the previous section. The topics were canvas item shader, data types, textures, texture space, texture mapping, and UV system. If you are tempted to remember them, that's perfect. The number you recall is less important than the attempt itself. Investing time and effort is the most important thing, and that's all I'm asking of you. Alright, let's move on. Let's click on our zombie sprite 2D node. In the inspector panel at the right side of the screen, you'll see various of properties. At the top, you will see the image of the zombie. We assigned our PNG as a texture, so let's refer to it as a texture from now on. In the image properties, you will find the original size of this texture. This particular texture has a width of 115 and a height of 124 pixels. In some situations, it's really important to know the dimensions of your texture. So if you ever need to know them, then you can find them right here. Now let's scroll down, or just move the mouse down, to the section that says material. That's where we can create and add our shader material. Inside the material section, you simply press on the empty slot. Here you add a new shader material and scroll down a bit. Now you press on this slot and this is where we can create a new shader. Let's create it. Here we see a few options. At the top you see create a shader by code, labeled shader, and an option for visual shader. Visual shaders are set up like a graph and are also known as visual scripting. But we will not delve into this type of shader. We will create it by code. And because of this, we can leave it the way it is. Next, we have mode. Here we see a few different types of shaders. While the principles you will learn can be applied to other shader modes, we will focus solely on 2D shaders, specifically canvas item shader. So also this one can stay as default. One line below, we see templates. And here we actually only have two options, and I kind of like the default. That's less work for us, so let's keep it that way. Then we see a built-in shader. This means that the shader code will be saved inside the scene file, so not as a separate GDShader file, which can be convenient for portability or for small projects where you don't need to reuse the same shader across multiple scenes or materials. However, it's generally better to store it as a separate file. This gives us more control over our file structure and makes it easier to reuse the shader. And on top of that, it keeps our project manageable when it scales towards a production-ready environment. So also here, we leave this off. And finally, let's address the path where we'll save our shader. It's crucial to maintain a clean and community standard file structure from the get-go, so we don't have to reorganize everything later. But because we have no folder set up yet, we will first just save our shader in the root folder. Now let's name it after its sprite, which is white zombie. So let's type white underscore zombie and press create. Then we will need to create a new folder in the root directory by right-clicking the res folder and then press new folder. We will again name it white zombie. We will be using this snake case naming convention again, which is the preferred naming convention for folders and variable names within Godot 4 projects. Alright, press OK. Now all that's left is clicking this folder and then double-clicking our shader. If that doesn't work, then at the bottom you see Shader Editor. You can press that, and if all went well, you will see a shader appearing in our shader editor. Well done, we're all set up and ready to code.